My dear, you sit beside me now with those kind eyes and ears ready to hold my words, and I am both comforted and burdened by the weight of what I've carried for so long. Come a little closer, please. It's not a story of heroics, not in the sense we've come to admire them, but it's our truth, a truth whispered from the attic, a part of me reaching across decades to meet you here. It was a night darker than I could have ever imagined, and yet, somehow beneath it was a current of light we'll never forget. We were a family like any other back then, caught in the chaos of a world tearing itself apart. I remember holding onto your great-grandmother's hand as she clutched your mother tight. She was just a girl then, your age, not more than a bundle of wide eyes and whispers, yet somehow wiser than any child should ever have to be. Every creak in the floorboards felt like thunder to us. Each shadow cast by the moon seemed to crawl, threatening to tell the world we were there, hiding, hoping, surviving in the only ways we knew how. We slept where the stars couldn't reach us, tucked away in an attic that became our fortress and our cage. It was there in the warmth of whispers we tried to hang on to fragments of what life used to be. Once I watched your great-grandfather glance out the small, filthy window, his face lit by the distant fires and faint moonlight. His hand would find my shoulder, squeezing it, no words but a promise unspoken. I'll protect you, no matter what. I always woke up to his eyes wide open, surveying the night, even when his own body cried out for rest. One such night, as soldiers marched below, their boots a drumbeat of doom, we held our collective breaths. Your small aunt, barely older than you, pulled at my sleeve and whispered, "Are we going to be okay?" The innocence in her voice broke my heart in a way that my voice trembled to reply, "Yes, my love, we will." It was a promise I wasn't certain I could keep, but it was the only thing I could give her, hope in that crushing darkness, no matter how fragile. Our escape was carved in murmurs and moonlight. We moved like shadows between trees, the forest a sanctuary that held us in its quiet embrace. Every crack of a branch underfoot was enough to stop our hearts in their tracks. We walked for hours in the freezing cold, each breath a silent prayer. With the snow biting at our faces like tiny daggers, we shuffled along, trying not to look back at the plumes of smoke rising from once familiar rooftops. Food had become a distant memory. When hunger gnaws below the skin, it does something to a person. It sharpens the world, focuses it. I can still feel the way our hands shook when the crust of bread was passed around, each mouthful heavy with the understanding that it might be our last. Your grandma would brush dirt from your mother's face, with such tenderness as if to erase the traces of war itself. Once we hid under a table, the only barrier between us and the chaos sweeping through the village. I remember pressing your mother's head to my chest, praying under my breath that my heartbeat would drown out the noise of guns and screams. Your grandfather covered your uncle's ears, warming them from the icy air and from the sounds we were powerless to escape. It was in moments like those, amidst the dread and despair, that our love burned brightest. It was a love that gave us strength, even when exhaustion clawed at us with relentless fervor. At times I feared not the ending of our journey, but the thoughts that one day I'd have to carry the memory alone. Life had taught me that sometimes surviving leaves guilt in its wake, marred only by gratitude for the acts of kindness we witnessed. The farmer who let us rest in his barn, the stranger in the village, sharing a small piece of dried meat when they had practically nothing themselves. There was one night when we could run no more, your aunt too tired to take another step. Soldiers were near enough that we could hear their harsh laughter rippling through the stillness. Our choices narrowed to a razor's edge. We hid beneath a bridge, water lapping at our feet, trying to still our breath as the cold gnawed deeper. Those long hours felt like years, whispers becoming our lullabies as we dared not move. "Remember this," I told them, my voice barely a sigh. "Remember that we are here." It was a declaration in the face of annihilation, that as long as we remembered, we existed beyond this moment's cruelty. As the sun crawled across the sky marking the next day, we felt the pangs of sorrow for those we'd lost along the way. There was a woman, your great-uncle's cousin, who had been separated from us in the frantic scuttle to safety. We had heard her cries one night, swallowed by the noise of soldiers' boots close behind. It was silence afterwards that haunted us most, the wondering without answers, an ache that never fully left our sides. Your grandfather's coat was worn thin, but he gave it to your mother to keep her warm. A father's love sacrificing comfort for the spark of life in his daughter's eyes. Even when times were most dire, we held on to the small promises, the shared smiles breaking through our fear like sunlight through clouds. Through all of it, we did survive. Not as the people we once were, broken in parts, yes, but more resilient, more aware of what truly mattered. It's a strange thing what survival does to someone, how the heart can expand wider to accommodate the scars it bears. The pain of those final words spoken like whispers during those days still hide within us. But it's those same words that taught me the true depth of life, of love. Now you sit here, and I see my echoes in you. Remember the cost of words never spoken, of lives torn by the hands of war. We didn't fight with weapons, but with courage, and perhaps the world will one day understand that peace takes more strength than any bullet. I've carried this story on my tongue for too long, waiting for you to be ready to hear it, for me to be ready to share it. It's not just our past, but a lesson. Hold on to hope, even when shadows threaten. Love fiercely, with a heart not hardened but open. This tale was not of heroics, not in the grand tales of victory, but in the quiet resilience of family, of whispers from an attic that refused to be silenced. Share this story with someone who needs to remember what the shadows of war leave behind.